Hey, welcome everybody to Customer Experience, Customer Centricity. This is every Tuesday I do a show where I do Q&A and AMA. So you can ask me anything and get live, let's call it remote virtual mentoring. I'll help in any way I can with any relevant question. Also, let me know if the sound is okay. It's going to be real hot here today and I've got a fan blowing on me. And I hope that's not disturbing anybody. Also, I got a new camera. I think right now it's showing me a little bit orangey. Let me know how this looks. Let's see, I can try to adjust this. We can get really funky with it. Whoa. Oh, that suddenly looks normal, right? All things are relative. Yeah, so I'm not totally sure how to best color correct myself. You tell me. So I am here every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Italy time taking your questions. So I'll be here again later today. But if you are here at this earlier time, I'm available to you now as well. If we don't see people joining in the next few minutes with a question, we'll just wind down the stream and delete it. And then we'll just do the one later today. You can ask your questions live in the chat, or you can send them to deltacx.com/links. There's a link there to send in a question that might be anonymous or a little bit on the long side. That comes into my email, so I am checking my email. Meanwhile, it's 9 in the morning in Italy, so I am working on my breakfast shake. What's everybody having? And I have another question, which is, I've been doing these earlier ones to adjust for different time zones, but if my new earlier show is in a good time zone for people, maybe we don't need the second show? You tell me. This was really for Australians and people in time zones way far away from me. Hey, Chiwat, midday coffee. Yeah, that makes sense. I forgot how many hours ahead of me you are. I'm still on breakfast protein shake, which requires constant mixing. This is not exciting Foley effects. Jiwad, is the fan bothering you? And how does my new camera look? It is a 4K camera, which means it's going to be a little bit more honest about my age. It does have a virtual camera setting, which smooths out my face and puts makeup on me and stuff, which was really creepy but really nice. It had all of these other settings that I had to tone down. It was like slimming my face, and let's face it, I've got a little weight to lose right now, but I'm gonna meet some of you in person and I don't want you to be like, whoa, Deb doesn't look anything like she does on YouTube. What is going on there? It had a setting to make my eyes bigger, which I don't think I need. I do need a little help with my age, but that's okay. I'm proud of my age, so whatever, you know? Hey, I am here to not just talk about myself and my new camera. I am here to take your questions, but we've got no questions. So instead, we're just hanging out and chatting. Again, if I don't see a question and if you don't catfish us, yeah, exactly. This is me with just a small amount of concealer here. Other than that, I'm a little here. That's it. This is me. So hopefully if you meet me, I look like this. Yeah, I put a screenshot in the Slack channel of what it looked like when the system like put makeup on me and slimmed my face and stuff. That was wild. Janina, or I'm probably not pronouncing you correctly. Oh no, don't get up at 4 in the morning for my show. I'm doing 2 today. Go back to sleep. Come to the later one. These are 6 hours from now. I'll be doing my later show, 3 p.m. Italy time. Please go to sleep. South Africa tea for you. Excellent. Yeah, good. Oh yeah, and it's winter there, so definitely have a nice hot tea. I promise this is not a weekly show of talking about what we're drinking. This is supposed to be, wrong side, Q&A, AMA. I'm happy to take any questions you might have about CX, UX, product strategy, company strategy, culture, anything I might be qualified to answer. And if I'm not qualified, I'll let you know. I'm doing this because my hair is still drying. That's how early it is here. Wet hair. But I tell you, wet hair feels nice given what the temperature is supposed to be here today. It's 28 at my desk, so I think it's much hotter outside. Let's see. No, according to my app, it's coming up on 34 outside. Yeah, it's supposed to be 40, 41. So anyway, oh, thank you, Chiwa. You do not have to cover me in butter. Look, I look what I look like. Anyway, if I get overheated, I can use my exciting new Disney Pride fan, which is being green screened out a bit. Whoa. So, Mohammed's pasted something in here that I don't think I'm going to be able to answer. It sounds like the goal here is to download a file rather than scrape the file for URLs visited. I don't know whom Mohammed is responding to, and I can't say anything about the code you've written. There you go. I'm in hyperfocus. It's great to have someone smart to listen. Can you please... something fakar, I'm assuming that got auto-corrected. Accessibility in the ops area. Which ops? Design ops, DevOps, or something else? While our Brazilian friend updates that, and please give me a good pronunciation of your name, I will get Chiwat's question up on the screen. Okay, I've got a new question thing. Let's put it up. Ta-da! Have you heard of any success stories in relation to queuing systems, like those at hospitals and government services? Ooh, you know, if anybody has those stories, it's probably Larry. I think he's sleeping, so no. I can certainly speak about my experiences as a user and where I thought those made sense and where they didn't, but from a design or research side, I have not personally worked on those. I know Larry did some stuff in the medical field, but I don't remember him telling a story about a queuing system, so I'm not sure. My government has been dealing with various ways to this, okay, but with not much success. Are you comfortable telling us more about what made it not successful? Like what something that didn't work? And again, ultimately, I think that this is really why we need that research. Do we know why something didn't work? Do we know how people perceive the queuing system? Do we know what their expectations are when we get there? How do we set the expectations with the queuing system? And Janine, I've got your, I'm sorry, I'm probably not saying your name right, but I've got your question coming up next. Yeah, so, and also just because some other queuing system worked doesn't mean we want to necessarily copy that. I did find it interesting, both the Department of Motor Vehicles near where I grew up and the post office near where I live now, which are not even the same continent, use similar systems, and I find them interesting. They seem to give people different tickets based on what they're there to do. Based on your task, you get a different type of ticket. Like they're different counting. Like one is letter A and then some numbers, and then another one is letter B and then some numbers. And I think they do this by task. So what are you there to do? And then they have different people helping those people. Sometimes one person helps people with lots of different letters, and sometimes one person helps everybody with letter B. That's just the letter B window or person you have to go to. I think organizing this by task would be interesting. Again, it's a task universe here on the channel, but I think that's an interesting way because hypothetically, some tasks take longer than others, and we know this. Some tasks might take a short amount of time. So if you're talking about a healthcare system. Here in Italy, once in a while, I have to go and register who my primary doctor is. That should be a short task. So hypothetically, I might be in a queue with other people with short, similar tasks, maybe related to changing their primary doctor. Chiwat says there's a pilot program using robots to guide patients to go to different parts of the hospital, bring medicine to nurses to save time. Okay, so Larry does have a story about that. Larry did work on a project some years ago that was an automatic drug dispensing system that dispensed drugs to the nurses so that they could deliver it to the patients. And the key knowledge area, because you know Larry and I to some extent, we're very much about knowledge design. The key there was that nurses wouldn't necessarily have memorized what medications don't work well with other medications. And so this system, when dispensing it, might give warnings or suggestions or just knowledge that, hey, this patient is also taking this, be careful of this. So I think Larry has some of that, but would he say it's a robot? Maybe. It was an automated machine. How do we do research for such a big task? It feels like something as general as fighting world hunger. Yeah, when you have a big thing like this, it very often should bring up the words service design. Service design takes the way we think of UX as like, hey, can we solve some problems for some users? And traditionally, service design, to me, is closer to that CX definition, where we're saying, you know what, we need to research and solve something, but it's not just for a set of users coming to an interface or an experience. We have a problem to solve from a lot of different angles at the same time. So hypothetically, you would be researching and understanding all the players. We've got visitors to the hospital who need the care. We have visitors to the hospital who are assisting the people who need the care. They're the caretakers of today's patients. We have different layers of hospital staff who need to interact with these people at some point. What are their jobs like? What makes them inefficient? What are their expectations? How could this be made easier for them? So I think this is definitely a task analysis project that could fall into the definition of UX, depending upon how you define it, based on how a lot of people define UX as just being digital screens or just the user. This could very easily be that broader definition of CX and service design. So ultimately, a service designer would be doing research with internal people, external people, users, doctors, nurses, janitors, anybody who is relevant in this ecosystem. LinkedIn user says it's a triage system, if I'm not mistaken, for hospitals to categorize patients. Oh yes, thank you for helping us with some internal lingo that I wouldn't know. Thank you. Let me jump over to LinkedIn and see who's leaving us these super messages, because sometimes my system doesn't show names. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to pronounce your name incorrectly. Please don't take that as a sign of disrespect. Kenelwe, that's what I would try, but you tell me. And you're at Old Mutual, so I'm guessing you're in South Africa. Yeah, so Chiwat, this is going to be service design, task analysis, but the tasks of many different groups of people coming at this from different angles, from administrative people to hospital designers who might have to change layouts or signage or other things, to the patients, to the people accompanying the patients. Thank you so much. I do my best. I'm bad at names. Especially, things outside of the sounds I grew up with, which are, going to be mostly Europe and Middle Eastern sounds. That's a short version, so we can get to the next question. Please do ask questions. I don't remember what site it's on. deltacx.com/links, or ask them here in the chat. Chiwat, you know me in Slack. You can always have a longer conversation with me about it, but that's what I would be suggesting. This is a large service design project, but it can be done. It just probably would take, this is not a 3-week research project. This is probably a good couple of months. If you've got my book, customers know you suck, being slightly green screened here. Definitely check out the chapter on service design, which I think was chapter 7. And back on the other YouTube channel that we have but don't use as much anymore, Delta CX. I think we had 2 shows on service design, so you can always go to YouTube and write Delta CX service design and see what pops up. Okay, thank you. Let's jump to our next question from our up too early in the morning Brazilian friend. I'm in hyperfocus. It's great to have someone smart to listen to. Thank you. And I'm assuming this is, I'm not sure, fakar is probably autocorrect to probably something else. Accessibility in design ops. So I can certainly speak generally to accessibility. It's something that I've cared about my whole life, and it's something that I've been involved in the UX universe since about 2012. That's when I first really learned about formalized accessibility concepts and work in the CX and UX space. So I'm not the expert of the experts, but I definitely know a few things. And when it comes to accessibility, the main piece of advice I have is that it's not the kind of thing that you can throw in at the end. This is something that has to be baked into every step of our process. Let's say that we are using some form of a traditional human-centered design process. Let's say we've got research, we've got content strategy, we've got information architecture and interaction design. We're going to test our designs and iterate on them. We're going to do some visual design, and then eventually we're going to help our team monitor for customer satisfaction and success after it's out there. This would be the whole of human-centered design. Next to me on the screen, hi Karen. Hypothetically, and you know, with love in our hearts, accessibility should be in all of these. Yes, this is the day. Once a month I do 2 office hours in one day. So I'll be here again later. So, you know, where am I pointing today? I don't know where anything is. So I moved everything around. So over here to this, whatever side of me this looks like. Research. Are we researching with people with different disabilities, diagnoses, and conditions? We can't just research with 16 white guys. We've got to research with people who have different vision issues, people who are left-handed, people who have hearing issues. If there's something that is sound-based on our website, maybe if we have videos, we want to make sure we research with people with different mobility issues. They might type differently or enter information in differently. They might not use a mouse. So everything that you made that was hover-based is toast. So research, definitely make sure people with accessibility needs are part of that. That means you're going to go beyond what we used to say was the best practice. We used to say, hey, just find 8 to 12 people from your persona or segment or typology. And I'm going to say, yeah, but we typically did that without people with different disabilities, diagnoses, and conditions. How about people who are neurodivergent? So you can see this starts to sound like lots of people. So I think we can easily find 8 to 12 people who might have few or no accessibility needs, maybe other than wearing glasses. And then we should probably find another 8, 10 or so people who have different disability needs. Now, this is still imperfect because very often people have multiple disabilities. My mother-in-law wears glasses, needs a hearing aid, and has had extensive, really bad rheumatoid arthritis for decades. She has some joints that literally don't move. That's not someone with just one disability. That's someone with 3. Do they complicate each other? In some people, they will. In her, maybe. So it's hard to say, oh yeah, we've really represented every disability ever. Okay, you can't do that. But you can at least start to get some people with common disabilities or combinations of disabilities into your research. They're also going to show up again in your testing. Bring them back for your testing. Sometimes they can test a UX prototype. Sometimes the UX prototype doesn't work with screen readers, so they have to be brought in more of the development QA testing to make sure that now that developers have built it, it works for people with different accessibility needs. And I would say that's still part of design ops, and it should be part of engineering's world. So you'll need to collaborate with engineering on that. Janina, am I going in the right direction with this question? I just realized I'm yapping on, and I don't even know if I'm going in the right direction. And I see an anonymous, not anonymous question coming in. We'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, remember, and content strategy, are we writing content for all the people who are going to see the content? Does it make sense for people with different disabilities? Does it make sense for people with memory issues? Does it make sense for people with ADHD or autism? Are we being clear? Are we writing at the correct reading level for who is going to read this? Are we using words that are too fancy? Do we have a very international audience and we're using fancy English words? So things to think about there for accessibility. And of course, your visual design has a lot to do with accessibility. If you're doing visual design or a design system, we want to make sure that people can see the colors. So if we have to design for the colorblind and not make everything red and green, we have to make sure there's icons in the right ways and places, but not too many, that the typography is good, including for people with dyslexia. You can see that throughout the human-centered design process, accessibility is everywhere. If you're doing it right, accessibility is everywhere. It's not something we kind of check for later, kind of sprinkle on over here. It's got to be everywhere. And the more people you can research with and design for, the better this is, not only because you're being fair and kind and empathetic to people, but you'll hopefully avoid being sued, and you'll probably be better upholding your company values. Your company values probably say things like honesty, integrity, empathy. We care about our customers. Okay, then you have to care about all of them. It's breakfast shake time over here. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some ideas. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. Follow-up questions are absolutely no charge. And I think the person who asked a question today has a question coming in my show later. I'm going to save that one for later if that's okay by you. Here is an anonymous question from someone who always manages to make themselves not anonymous. Oops, let me also take human-centered design off the screen. Okay, I got it right. I just have to guess what number to press. Alrighty. I'm curious about how we can measure or understand the effectiveness of sliders, or the ones we often see in hero sections of web pages that automatically scrolls. I believe is not great UX due to factors such as attention span and animations. And Janae is still talking about her question, or their question. Accessibility is a competitive differential in business strategy. 1 billion users or a larger market. Yes. Karen, we know it's you. Janina, you're right. So the statistic is 25% of America identifies as being disabled in some way, 25 or 26% of Europe. So absolutely, it's roughly a quarter of people worldwide, if not more. I mean, I don't think of myself as disabled, and I don't check off disabled on job descriptions, but I'm supposed to wear glasses. I have glasses. I wear them when I'm driving, but I'm supposed to wear them all the time. And I lost most of my sense of smell and taste from having COVID 7 months ago. These could be disabilities. For whatever reason, I don't mark myself as disabled. I feel like it's not fair. I'll mark myself as disabled when I feel like something is truly blocking me more, or I'm blocking myself, but that's just me. Okay, over to Karen. So how do you measure the effectiveness of sliders? So you're right. These are called sliders. Sometimes they're called carousels. And very traditionally, these were considered bad UX pretty much from the first time I saw them, which I feel like had to be 2014 or something. I know they've been around a very long time. They're still used on a lot of sites, and very often they come from marketing departments who say, we've got a lot of messages we want to give people. These are timely, hot messages, and so we want them at the top of the page. But you can't have a million things at the top of the page. Something has to share. So what they did was they said, well, let's use this top of the page, and then we'll just have, lots of messages animating in. You know, here's our welcome message. Then the second one is going to be this month's sale. And then the third one is going to be a new product we're carrying. And then the fourth one is going to be sign up today and get a discount, whatever it is. These typically come from marketing departments who want to throw a lot of information at people nearly at the same time. What a lot of people have found, though this is somewhat anecdotal, is that people rarely stick around long enough to see the third, fourth, fifth screen of the carousel or slider. Sometimes they don't even see the second one. It really depends. And you don't want these to animate too fast. You want to give people time to see what you've said, get the feeling of it, maybe take action, because hypothetically you're showing them this message. There's usually 1 or 2 calls to action on each of those heroes. You know, show it to them for 10 or so seconds, give them the chance to read it, think about it, and take action. These ones that animate every 3 or 5 seconds, ouch, forget it. People will scroll right past them. But again, so can you do that? Yeah, there are probably, if you are able to tag in your analytics system or whatever you're using, which of these images is ever shown to the user. So for example, let's say we have a slider with 5 images, and let's say it's going automatically every 10 seconds. We would probably, unless they all preload, I guess we used to know from whether or not they loaded. Nowadays, I think everything preloads. So I think the analytics team would have to come up with a way of figuring out, did the user ever see this? Now, we might also be tracking heat maps or how much people scroll. Are we tracking when they scroll? If this is at the top of the page and our analytics say people tend to start scrolling down the page 7 seconds after getting onto the page, and we know that this thing animates for 10 seconds, then we know that they never saw the second message. So I think there are some analytics that we can put together that tell us if people ever saw this without going into eye tracking or something more scientific. We also know that many of these messages tend to have calls to action. We can check, did anyone click these? You know, the calls to action on the second message, did anyone click it? The calls to action on the third message, did anyone click it? Calls to action on the fourth message, did anyone click it? So we can certainly see if there were action taken on these messages where they had calls to action, and perhaps we can stitch some analytics together to see if these were even seen. But in general, for probably as long as they've been around, they've been considered bad UX because of the reasons you said and more. People don't usually have attention span. Animations aren't always great for people. Sometimes these aren't mobile friendly, but the core is that they're very often not, say it with me, task-oriented or based in knowledge design. They're usually just throw spaghetti at the wall, lots of messages that a marketing department wants to give to the visitors, and it's like, throw everything at them, just put it in this carousel. And that means we didn't really design for tasks. We don't really, we're not so clear on why most people are coming to our site. If we were, we would have better content strategy, and we would put the right messages in the right order to be compelling to our target audience. Karen says the issue with checking for accessibility is often dismissed with the statement, oh, we don't have disabled customers. Yes, so back to accessibility. I'll go back to that in a moment. You've also said, I was thinking of designing a test to see if users can find the offer or whatever we're presenting in those carousels. That is not something I would recommend, only because it's kind of leading. It's kind of like saying, somewhere behind me is an orange square. Can you find it? You know, then what happens is, oh, now you're deliberately looking for it. But that might not be the behavior the person naturally has on the page. And so you could say, give them a task. You could give them a task. You're here to buy red plastic cups, go. And then let's say the third or fourth message in the carousel was an offer or a discount. You could say at the end of it, did you notice any coupon codes or special offers? Oh no, I didn't notice any. Okay, no problem. We didn't have one there. I was just curious if you. Well, we can't say that, but I was just well, we have to come up with something to say at that point. But I think asking people if they can find something means they will look for it. And I think that by nature can bias a testing experience. So I wouldn't want people to do that. I would give them a normal task for the page, and I would see how long they spend on the carousel. If you drop someone on a homepage and you say you're here to buy red plastic cups, and they spend no time looking at the carousel, that is your data. Your data isn't, can I convince someone to stop what they're doing and watch this carousel animate and see if they can find the missing piece of information? Sure. People will, just to make you happy. But that's not a real piece of data. That's where we're going to end up being surprised later that when we put this thing out there, no one's clicking on this offer. This offer is barely being used. This coupon code is being used by 0.1% of people. What's going wrong here? Karen said people could find it. So we don't want to do a sort of leading test where we're asking people to hunt for something that they normally wouldn't hunt for. I think especially in e-commerce, people are used to seeing offers in a top strip on the page where it is right out there. Or they're used to seeing maybe an offer once they put something in their cart. It's more contextual. Maybe there's an offer on the product page itself. Hi, you're looking at red cups, but did you know if you buy a set of red cups today, you'll get some blue cups too? So I think that we don't want to create a test that will try to prove that people see this or can find it. We don't want to give them scavenger hunt. Now back to your other comment where you said the issue with checking for accessibility is, we don't have disabled customers, and I addressed this in my book. Yeah, I think we have chapter 13 on accessibility in Customers Know You Suck, available at cxcc.to/CKYS. And by the way, this is our new YouTube channel. Oh, wrong. That is my silly thing for when I joke that people are old. Why did that one come up? I thought I pressed the subscribe button. Okay, subscribe. Ooh, I wonder why that one came up. I'll have to fix my little board of shortcuts. Anyway, this is our new YouTube channel, Customer Experience, Customer Centricity, it's over here, CX-CC. Please subscribe and tell your buddies about it. So, accessibility. Very often at companies, people, certainly without #empathy, will say, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about accessibility. We don't have blind users. We don't have disabled users. We don't have deaf users or hard of hearing users. This is obviously, this can't be true. What are the odds that out of all the customers you have and all the customers you hope to have, none of them have a disability? When a quarter of people report having a disability, it just seems statistically almost impossible. The only time I've seen this is where the target audience was selected specifically to have absolutely zero disabilities. This came up when I was writing some training for the US Navy, and they were telling me about their pilots, their war fighters. And I said, what about their accessibility needs? And they said, we don't allow pilots who have disabilities. We kind of don't want you flying a plane if you have certain disabilities, and so that's an audience that has been specifically chosen, fair or unfair, to have no disabilities. Other than that, if you're dealing with the general population, absolutely people are going to have vision issues, hearing issues, memory issues, ADHD, autism, neurodivergence, dyslexia. Breakfast. Normally what helps there is shooting for sympathy, because we're probably not going to get empathy from that person? Can we get sympathy? Who's in the room when you're having this conversation? Anybody with a disability? Anybody who wears glasses? Anybody who has a tough time going up steps and always takes the elevator? What if it's not anybody in that room? Walk out. If you're in an office, walk out to the floor where all the people are. Hey, what about these people? Do any of these people are any of these people neurodivergent? Probably some of them. Are any of these people wearing glasses? Yeah, probably some of them. Are any of these people left-handed? Probably some of them. Do any of them have to use a special mouse because of hand issues? You know, did they get a sideways mouse or a ball mouse or a trackpad mouse because of hand issues? Yeah, you know, we did buy a couple of those. Tell me more about your disability-free world. So, yeah. I think that the best we can hope for from those people is sympathy, just by walking out the door, take them to lunch, look at everybody around them. Maybe somebody's wearing a cast. Hey, that person's wearing a cast. I bet they're not typing very well right now. I bet they're having trouble using their phone, getting dressed, going to the toilet. You know, that person, at least temporarily, is disabled. We normally have to do some of these things to wake people up. So yeah, sorry about that. It's unfair. It shouldn't be necessary. If people had empathy, we wouldn't have to do that. I don't think we can create empathy. That's my personal take on that, but I believe we can create sympathy. And I do find that with the people who say we don't have disabled people and who cares about accessibility, as soon as they get into that skiing accident or car crash or eye surgery, all of a sudden, oh my God, accessibility. Oh my God, I can't use anything. Nothing on my phone is right. Nothing at my computer is right. Our system sucks. Yes, I'm sorry you had to be hit by a car to figure that out. You can also try to do some usability testing with people with different disabilities and show those videos to Mr., Ms., or whoever, no empathy. Do you have experience hiring people with disabilities? If so, does the hiring process differ for those individuals? Can you describe what the process looks like? Okay, so here's the thing about that. I've definitely been a hiring manager. I have definitely hired and interviewed people. I have interviewed people, and in some cases hired people who disclosed, which in many countries is optional, disclosed disabilities, whether those were visual or motion or memory or ADHD or autism or dyslexia. Yes, but in reality, a lot of the process is on the shoulders of the HR department. So as a hiring manager, I can say, okay, thank you for letting me know that you have ADHD. Is there anything in particular that our company or projects can do or not do to make working here better? So typically, at least by American law, which I'm only a little familiar with, so someone might correct me, if someone discloses a disability or accessibility need, the company is supposed to provide them what they need, assuming it's reasonable, which it often is. It could be a special mouse. It could be screen reading software. It could be some flexible working time. So you're supposed to, they say accommodate. I sometimes feel like that's an insensitive word, but that's often the word you'll see in America, that if someone says, hey, I have this disability and therefore, you know, sometimes I just need a longer break to get refocused and de-stress a bit. Okay. If it's reasonable, you're supposed to accommodate them and give them what they need. Janaina says, I bet my chips on showing in the money that accessibility brings increase of loyalty in users. Yeah, that's a good point too. It'd be great to have numbers on a growing audience of users with accessibility needs, because we're really catering to them and building what works for them. Karen says, do HRs adjust their interviewing styles for people with autism, for example? I usually don't unless someone asks me to. I like to start out treating everybody the same until they tell me they need something different. So if someone says, hey, I'm autistic and I tend to take things a little bit more literally, so please make sure you're extra clear with me about what you need. Or, hey, I'm autistic and I don't always get jokes people make. Can you make sure that around me you don't make jokes that require a lot of interpretation? Hey, I'm autistic and I really can't deal with office noise. Is it okay if we have this conversation another day? Whatever it is, especially with something, there are varying conditions that manifest in different ways. Not everybody who's autistic needs the same thing. That's why I don't want to adjust and accidentally insult somebody. If I change the way I'm talking because I think, oh, they're autistic, maybe they're not going to get my jokes, and then later on they might be like, hey, you're so funny on YouTube, why aren't you making jokes? Oh, I thought you were autistic and you weren't going to get jokes. Oh, I don't want to say that. I don't even think that. Usually I ask people, thank you for telling me that. Is there anything I can do or not do that will make our time together better? That's all you have to say. What can I do or not do or do differently that makes our time together better? Whatever it is. And then you give that person that. You know, someone I work with sometimes has said, I can't always work a full day. And I go, fine. We'll make sure we estimate projects for shorter days when you're on them. Done. How hard was that? Project still got done on time. Done. This is only a big deal when people pretend it's a big deal. You know, many things that people require for their conditions are extremely reasonable and absolutely doable. Janena says, I have ADHD, I always pronounce this wrong, synesthesia, and dyslexia. The best way to treat any neurodivergent person is basically education. Asking politely is always the best way. Exactly. I don't want to claim to know what's best for Janena. Absolutely not. That's arrogant. That's false confidence. It's just best for me to say, thank you for sharing that with me. Are you disclosing that to others, or do I need to keep that secret between us? And sometimes people say, please keep this a secret. I'm only telling you. And sometimes people say, no, I tell everybody. And I go, okay. And then I say, what can I do more of, less of, differently, to improve things for you? That's it. It's a two-way street. I'm sure if I said to that person, I really struggle with blah, 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 can you please work around that or change something for that? I would want that for myself. I would want someone to adjust something for me. Now, my main life issue is food allergies. I need the entire world to adjust themselves around my food allergies so I don't die. And when a restaurant treats me like, hey, yeah, no problem, we can do that. It's absolutely love, 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 and gratitude. I appreciate that. When a restaurant looks at me like, you're the problem, and why'd you even come in here if you have these allergies? That's a restaurant I'm not going back to, and sometimes I get up and leave in that moment. So we've all had something in our lives where we hoped the world around us would adjust a little bit for us. We can't always get that. And we can't always change other people's behaviors. And sometimes it's not healthy to try to change someone else's behaviors. But when it comes to working around what people need to live their lives day to day, we should be trying to do that for each other. I still think about the coworker I had at Macy's who I deeply hated, and he probably hated me because he once booked a meeting with me in the smallest conference room we had, and he slowly ate a tuna fish sandwich knowing I was allergic to fish. This, of course, is the opposite of accommodating someone's request. This is aggressively working against someone's request. Certainly, let's not pretend that product manager had any empathy. I did make it, I did survive, here I am today, but that was not okay. That was not okay, and I wondered if that was a conversation I should be having with his manager. I didn't even know what to do. I was so stunned that I found a way to end the meeting early, but I was just so stunned that he would do it. I was so caught off guard. And that's nothing compared to what people with other disabilities and conditions go through. Okay, everybody, I'm on fire. It's getting really hot in here. I'm going to turn on the air conditioning. If the sound is annoying anyone, and I know it sometimes does, please tell me. Sometimes people say, oh, it's a whining, it's a whirring in the background. It sounds terrible, turn it off. Okay, but now I'm melting. Help. Fan. I'm sitting next to a fan, and I'm fanning myself. Whew. I'm going to just turn up this fan next to me. It's going to sound like I'm in a hurricane. Oh. There we go. This is the high speed. Oh, it looks like my camera got brighter while I wasn't looking. High speed fan. Help me, everybody. It's going to be hot here today. Oh gosh, my husband's over there pointing a different fan at me. I now have two fans. I had to turn the air conditioning back on. It's 29 at my desk. I'm dying. Hey, we've got just a few minutes left to the show. Thanks for the great questions and long conversations today. Sorry about the wind tunnel effect. Remember that we're doing this all again at... oh my gosh, we have so much wind, my lights are shaking. We're doing this again at 3 p.m. Italy time, which is in about 5 hours. I don't have a guest today. It's just me taking your questions. You can send them ahead of time if you'd like to deltacx.com/links. There's a link on there for office hours questions. Don't forget, tomorrow we have a super special show at 3 p.m. Italy time. We're going to be talking about mental health with Dr. Seth Finkel. We're going to be talking about how the economy, the world, the job market is really affecting people's mental health right now, from frustration and disappointment to clinical depression. We're going to be addressing this. So come and join us tomorrow or watch that show in the archives later. Of course, Wednesday later at 6:30 Italy time is our community networking, which we like to call group therapy. So if you think you need some group therapy, it's unofficial and not licensed, but you are welcome there. You can find it on the events calendar that's on deltacx.com/links, or if you're in our Slack or Discord channel, it'll come up in the live events channel. Thursday, we'll be discussing my new article, 2023 is UX Agile. And Friday, we have critical thinking planned, but two things. Number one, critical thinking will not be on this YouTube channel. It will be on Delta CX. And number two, I've only been sent one thing so far. So if I don't get more things to fill out a half-hour show, we'll just cancel this week's critical thinking. You can send in stuff for critical thinking at deltacx.com/links. So knowing that there is 7 minutes left, roughly 7 or 10 minutes left to our show, that's my timer to remind me to wind down. But I think we're pretty wound down. Making sure I didn't miss any questions in the chat. Nope. All right. Then I'm going to wind down and try to cool off. I hope everybody will be temperature appropriate today for wherever you live. And I think I'm going to go put more ice in my shake. But I'll see everybody in about 5 hours when we do the... later version. So normally we do this at 3 p.m. This is the rare early version. Is that one not working? I just turned it on. Okay. Hey everybody, my husband trimmed his beard. Yeah. Heat. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Yeah, I don't want to wear a cat on my face either. Okay, you look lovely, honey. Okay, I'm going to go tell him how lovely he looks. And I'll see you all in a few hours if you want to come to the next version of Office Hours. We already have 2 questions sent in, so you can send yours in and they'll be included. Thanks, and what? Thanks, Debbie. See you later. Yes, we'll make it through the heat. Everybody put a fan. It's just out of camera. It's right here. I have a giant fan blowing at me, and I have more fans. So there you go. Good luck, everybody. Stay hydrated, and we'll see you later. Bye.